You're alleging that the Southern Poverty Law Center was paying the leaders of KKK and other groups to continue their operations? Is that?
I'm not alleging it. The grand jury returned an indictment that says that Southern Poverty Law Center is raising money, asking folks to give them money to dismantle racism. And over a very long period of time, they were using some of the money they raised from donors to pay to, they call them field, basically to informants.
The Department of Justice has announced a grand jury indictment of the Southern Poverty Law Center on charges of fraud and money laundering. Now, when this story broke this morning, I was pretty shocked about it. And to be quite frank, given the players involved, I thought this seems like a politically motivated prosecution. However, as you read the details, this does seem real. And as with any case, innocent until proven guilty. But what's being claimed here would indeed be a crime. So let me get to the details on what allegedly happened. So apparently, according to Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche, who hasn't been confirmed for the role, who also, by the way, secured a minimum security facility from a notorious groomer and rapist Ghislaine Maxwell, now says that the Southern Poverty Law Center paid informants to monitor racist organizations. Okay, paying informants isn't necessarily illegal, right? But there's more to it than that, allegedly. So a grand jury in Alabama, where SPLC, Southern Poverty Law Center, is based, handed down this indictment. So it's not like, Todd Blanche unilaterally decided, I'm gonna prosecute these guys. There's no grand jury involved. There is a grand jury involved, and there has to be probable cause in order to pursue this case. So the SPLC faces 11 counts, including wire fraud, bank fraud, and conspiracy to commit money laundering. Only the organization itself has been charged. No specific individuals have been named in this case. However, that could change as this investigation continues. Now, Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche detailed the indictment during a press conference today. So let's take a look at what he had to say.
The SPLC is a nonprofit entity that purports to fight white supremacy and racial hatred by reporting on extremist groups and conducting research to inform law enforcement groups with the goal of dismantling these groups. As the indictment describes, the SPLC was not dismantling these groups. It was instead manufacturing the extremism it purports to oppose by paying sources to stoke racial hatred.
That is a very heavy and serious charge. It is. Now look, Southern Poverty Law Center is a nonprofit, and as is the case with all nonprofits, they exist to help solve or alleviate a problem, right? If that problem goes away or if that problem is solved, well, the people who work at that nonprofit are no longer necessary, right? So sometimes you'll hear people talk about the homeless industrial complex in places like California, and they actually do have a point. Now, there are nonprofits who actually do help the homeless, who do amazing work. There's one that I have in mind, the name escapes me at the moment, but what they do is they provide mental health services and housing, and they do regular check-ins every week with their clients to make sure that they're not only housed, but they're getting the mental health they need in order to get themselves out of a terrible situation and be independent, productive members of society. That is a wonderful nonprofit that I love. However, there have been so many audits that have found wrongdoing by nonprofits that actually are not helping the homeless. They seem to only want to make it worse. And as a result of that, they can justify their whole existence as a nonprofit meant to help the homeless. I guess the argument that's being made here by Todd Blanche is that rather than crushing or squashing these hate groups or helping to do so, their actions only fueled or built some of these hate groups. That is what he's alleging. I have to see evidence of that. I obviously do not have the evidence of that. So this case must be proven. I want to be very clear about that. Now, Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche also claims that the organization gave at least $3 million to nefarious figures between 2014 and 2023. And he also outlined the SPLC's involvement in the Unite the Right rally, which took place during Trump's first term. That was in Charlottesville. Let's take a look.
The SPLC was paying a member of the leadership group that planned the Unite the Right protest in Charlottesville, Virginia in 2017 that resulted in the death of one person and injured dozens more. This particular person being paid by the SPLC allegedly received approximately $270,000 over the course of 8 years. In total, according to the indictment, between 2014 and 2023, SPLC paid at least $3 million to 8 individuals at least. These individuals were affiliated with the Ku Klux Klan, United Klans of America, National Socialist Movement, Aryan Nations affiliated Sadistic Souls Motorcycle Club, the Nationalist Socialist Party of America, Nazis, and the American Front.
Okay, not good if proven to be true, but we know that our intelligence community will, pay informants all the time, like literal criminals, drug traffickers, whatever it is, cartel members. And what they'll do is they'll offer them some sort of deal in court as long as they act as an informant. Now, obviously, the Southern Poverty Law Center is not an official intelligence agency in the United States. It's a nonprofit. So it really depends on how the law is applied to a nonprofit when it comes to paying informants. But there was a great question asked during this press conference by a reporter. Is this actually illegal? And if it is, what laws are being broken here? Take a listen to what Blanche is alleging.
The Southern Poverty Law Center is a 501c3. Okay, they're required to, under the laws associated with a nonprofit, to have certain transparency and honesty in what they're telling donors they're going to spend money on, and what their mission statement is, and what they're raising money doing. And so, as the indictment points out, there's different ways that they raise money, and in no fundraising efforts that the investigation found did they say, oh, and by the way, we're going to give $1 million to the Ku Klux Klan. So that's fraud. So that's wire fraud. So, and then the bank fraud part of it is you have KYC. You have an obligation to tell your financial institution what the corporation or the entity that you're opening an account for does. And the allegations in the indictment are that these were fictitious companies that were set up, and so there was certain information sworn to by SPLC executives about what the entities were doing that we allege is false.
So again, all of this would need to be proven in court. Whether they actually broke the law would need to be proven. And this is just my opinion, like how I would feel as a donor to the organization. Yeah, I mean, I think it's reasonable to assume that donors to an organization like the Southern Poverty Law Center would be pretty furious to find out that their money was used to pay Klan members or neo-Nazis for whatever reason, right? Like, you have to be honest about what you're raising the money for and what you intend to do with it. So we'll see how this plays out. But in October, Kash Patel, who you can see standing beside Blanche in that press conference silently, severed FBI ties with the nonprofit, alleging that it long ago abandoned civil rights work and turned into a partisan smear machine. Okay, so it doesn't help to engage in partisan commentary like that. It makes the case against the Southern Poverty Law Center seem politically motivated. So if I were the administration, I would probably fire Kash Patel sooner rather than later, but who knows what they're gonna do with him. Nonetheless, it's important to know what the Southern Poverty Law Center has to say about this indictment. Its CEO, Brian Fair, has accused the administration of weaponizing the legal system, saying that today the federal government has been weaponized to dismantle the rights of our nation's most vulnerable people and any organization like ours that stands in the breach. So they're denying it. They plan to fight this in court as aggressively as they can. But the real question is whether the SPLC literally paid neo-Nazi the neo-Nazis like millions in order to be informants. The SPLC says it has used informants when tracking and exposing hate groups, including white supremacists. FAIR on Tuesday said that the organization frequently shared insight from informants with local and federal law enforcement. That part's really important if it's true, including the FBI, but that the nonprofit no longer works with paid informants. So it seems like they're willing to admit that they have paid informants in the past. But I think the important element to this is, did they actually share this information with law enforcement? And, even if they did that, did they break the law if they were raising money from donors and they weren't being honest about what they intended to do with that money? I don't know. I'm obviously not a lawyer, but it doesn't look great. Luckily, they get to make their argument in court and we'll see how this plays out. But Kash Patel is not helping their case at all. I mean, he's the one who seems very politically motivated here. And Todd Blanche was Trump's personal lawyer, and then ended up helping Trump by having a little meeting with Ghislaine Maxwell right before she was moved to Club Fed, where she gets to play with puppies, even though she is a rapist and was Epstein's right-hand woman. Crazy times we live in, right?
Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.